Good evening, I'm Ces Oreña-Drilon.
I'm Pauline Verzosa.
And I'm Shawn Yao.
The big stories tonight. As the 2025 to 2026 school year opens, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. says government is working to enhance the quality of education in the country and improve school conditions for both students and teachers. One such improvement, the DepEd says, is a possible public-private partnership to address the classroom backlog shortage.
And we take a look at the Israel-Iran conflict, which is now on its fourth day and continues to escalate as both countries trade missile strikes. Scores have been reported killed and wounded, including Filipinos. Later, we'll be speaking with the Philippine ambassador to Israel in the program.
And in an exclusive interview with Cheryl Cosim, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. talks about the reasons for his cabinet shakeup and the legacy which he intends to leave the Philippines with in 2028.
We are gearing up for all of that. Yung kuryente, we're making sure na may kuryente lahat, na hindi may tubig lahat. Yun ang mga basic services na makita natin para naman maging maayos ang pag-aaral ng mga ating kabataan.
As the new school year kicks off, President Bongbong Marcos is pushing for key reforms aimed at improving learning and teaching conditions in public schools. The Department of Education is also rolling out a stronger senior high school curriculum and is eyeing partnerships to fast-track the construction of 105,000 classrooms across the country. Here's the report.
President Bongbong Marcos made a visit to Epifanio de los Santos Elementary School in Manila this morning as classes officially opened nationwide. Accompanied by Education Secretary Sonny Angara, the president went around to personally inspect classrooms and observe the situation. He even tried teaching the students himself before giving a positive assessment of the school's condition. President Marcos then ordered key agencies to improve both the quality of education and campus safety, including hiring more teachers, expanding internet access, and installing CCTV cameras.
Kukuha tayo ng 20,000 bagong guro. Sa ngayon, sa 20,000 na yun, 16,000 na ang na-hire ng DepEd na bagong guro. Para tapos kumuha naman tayo para nga may katumbas na hiring doon sa administrative duties, 10,000 naman. Ang mga eskwelahang may internet lamang ay mga 60%, napakababa. Ang problema talaga kuryente. Kaya aayusin natin yan, dahan-dahan makikita natin magiging 100% yan.
Earlier today, Angara also made his rounds. He zeroed in on the school's comfort rooms where water supply issues remain a problem.
Meron kaming standing order. Dapat kumuha ng magandang serbisyo at saka talagang prioritize yung mga CR. Dahil yun ang pag hindi malinis ang CR, hindi tumatakbo ang tubig, doon nagmumula yung sakit. So yun ang concern ng ating Pangulo.
So we are gearing up for all of that. Yung kuryente, we're making sure na may kuryente lahat, na hindi may tubig lahat. Yun ang mga basic services na makita natin para naman maging maayos ang pag-aaral ng mga ating kabataan.
Angara also noticed the return of classroom decorations after being banned under Vice President and former DepEd Secretary Sara Duterte. Meanwhile, for teachers, the use of visual aids helps students absorb lessons better and adds life to the learning space.
We are into elementary school, we really advocate na meron talagang mga posters para mas mapadali as smooth yung lessons namin. We believe naman kasi the visual aids will help our learners have more retention sa aming sa functional literacy na ini-aim ng aming gobyerno.
Yun ang expression ng mga bata parang yun ang freedom of expression nila maglagay ng mga creations nila, yung mga drawings nila. So I think we have bigger problems siguro.
As part of ongoing reforms, the DepEd is eyeing the construction of 105,000 classrooms in key regions like Metro Manila and Calabarzon. Under Angara's leadership, the academic calendar has reverted to its traditional June to March schedule, a move welcomed by many parents.
Mas okay po sa amin mga parent po kasi hindi na kagaya dati na pag nasa May, sobrang init. Yung ibang estudyante, hindi sila nakakapasok po. Yung iba, parang heat stroke.
It was in 2020 when DepEd first opened classes in August instead of June because of the pandemic. For News 5 Caricator, we are One News.
Well, beyond classrooms and curriculum, President Marcos also raised concerns over bullying and cyberbullying now that classes have started. He says that these issues are now taking a serious toll on students' mental health and are getting in the way of learning.
Yung mga bullying, dahil nagiging malaking problema, mental health problem ng mga bata dahil hindi maayos ang patak. Kung talaga may bullying, hindi sila makapag-aral na mabuti.
The president's remarks come as mental health remains a top concern in schools. In 2024, former CHED chairperson Prospero de Vera revealed at a Senate subcommittee on finance that mental health issues are among the main reasons college students drop out. Meanwhile, a 2024 report from the Second Congressional Commission on Education found over 10,000 DepEd-run schools still do not have localized anti-bullying policies despite Republic Act 10627 or the Anti-Bullying Act of 2013. The Philippine National Police says it continues to coordinate with schools in monitoring bullying incidents, especially those that happen outside the classroom. It also adds that victims of bullying can also utilize the PNP 911 hotline for help or complaints.
Ang magiging response lang naman actually ng first response ng ating mga call takers dyan, itatawag din sa local stations at ang local stations magko-coordinate yan sa school head. Baka kasi hindi nakakarating sa school head sa kung ano mga rason ang impormasyon, nagtutulungan kami para namomonitor kung ano man ang nangyayari. Kasi ang bullying hindi naman nangyayari lang sa loob ng eskwelahan. Paglabas ng mga bata sa pagpauwi, meron ding pwedeng mangyaring ganyan.
And now to weigh in on these back-to-school developments, we're joined by Teachers Dignity Coalition Chair Benjo Basas. Benjo, welcome to the program and thank you for coming to the Big Story.
Good evening and of course Miss Pauline and Ma'am Shawn, good evening.
Ano pong masasabi ninyo itong 20,000 teachers na balak i-hire ng DepEd?
Well, nabanggit na rin naman po yan initially ng BBM, they mentioned 16,000 new teaching positions na i-hire ngayong 2025 fiscal year. And of course, during our dialogue last week lang rin, June 12, DepEd officials told us that the total would be some 20,000 teachers. Of course, this is a very welcome development initiative of the Department of Education and of course our DBM. But unfortunately, kulang pa rin po ito considering that the DepEd mentioned that we have something like 56,000 shortage for teachers for this school year. So baka mas maliit pa nga yun doon yung tansya ng DepEd kaysa doon sa aming pagtingin. But of course, sige, at least for a start ay maganda na po ito itong balita po.
Matagal nang nakabinbin itong pagpuno ng shortage. Pero ano ba ang inyong tansya? Yung 56,000 na sinasabi niyo, you're saying more? Mas malaki pa ang kinakailangan. Ilan po?
Well, ang tansya po namin maaring umabot ng 100,000 dahil hindi naman po madaling kunin lang kasi ang pagkuha po ng teacher to student ratio ay hindi lamang namang simpleng kukunin mo lamang yung aggregate yung average kasi nag-iiba-iba po yan like for example sa kindergarten classes ay hindi pa pwede na 30 rin o 40 rin sa key stage 1 doon sa primary that is from grades 1 to 3 ay hindi rin naman po pwede na mataas, di ba? Kasi yan po yung foundational na level na kinakailangan dapat pag akyat ng bata sa grade 3 dapat bago umalis ng grade 3 dapat marunong na siyang magbasa. Otherwise masasayang po lahat at yan po yung that's the case po in many of our students who are that revealed even by the media po na meron po tayong maraming mga bata na nakakyat ng high school na talagang non-readers at yan po yung dahilan. Kaya para sa amin po dapat ang focus, dapat ang bibigyan po talaga ng ng diin, no? Ang bibigyan ng mas maraming resources ay ito po talagang ating key stage 1, that is kinder to grade 3 po.
Well, yung pag-ikot ni Pangulo kasama ng DepEd Secretary Angara, marahil mensahe na rin, makikita mo na talagang nakatuon ng pansin ng gobyerno. Pero ano pa ba ang kulang bukod sa teachers na kailangang bigyan ng atensyon?
Well, we want to express our appreciation for that. No? Kasi noon pang Brigada Eskwela, umiikot na rin ng Pangulo. Nakita niya talagang actual, no, yung ating pong sitwasyon ng ating mga classrooms, no. At sana mas maging madalas, no, Ma'am Ces, yun ang kahilingan namin.
Oh, hindi lang first day of school. Hindi lang pag first day of school.
Yes, at hindi
once
lang pang
a year.
opo. At least once every quarter po, no. At kasi Miguel Bulacan yung pinuntahan, no. Pwede rin siyang pumunta sa iba pang mga probinsya, no, sa Luzon, Visayas at Mindanao para makita, no, dahil ang problema talaga natin sa education talaga napakalaki, no. And we're glad, no, that the president himself, no, sinasabi niya at nakita niya, no, na 60% lamang ang merong internet connectivity, no, baka mas mababa pa yan, ano po. At nakita niya rin na ang problema pala ay kuryente. You could just imagine, no, how could you have internet connectivity kung wala kang basic, no, yung kuryente, no, yung water and sanitation facilities po, nakita rin ng ating Pangulo, no. These are the basic needs of our students, no. Alam nyo, yung kubeta, matagal na naming sinasabi ho yan, no. Hindi naman yan tabu na pag-usapan, pero napaka-importante po, no, sa ating mga mag-aaral, no, yung water and sanitation facilities po, no, kagaya ng mga CR po, no, nawala sa ating mga public schools. May mga public schools po tayo, no, Ma'am Ces, na pag pumasok ka pa lang sa gate, alam mo na kung nasaan ng banyo ang kubeta kasi tinuturo ka na, no, ng amoy niya doon, ano po, no. So eto po, no, yung mga basic po, no, dito. At of course, no, hindi nabanggit yata, no, doon sa ginawa, no, ng ating Pangulo at ang ating kalihim, no, Angara. Mukhang hindi pa nabanggit diyan, no, yung kakulangan po doon sa materials. Wala po tayong libro, no, dekada na, no, na may ilan tayong mga subjects, no, na hindi po talaga nakapag-provide, no, ng reading materials or books, no. Mostly ang ginagamit po namin yung mga downloadables, no, from the Department of Education, at yan po yung nire-reproduce namin o kaya binibigay namin na soft copy, no, doon sa aming mga mag-aaral, no. So kulang din yung upuan, no. Marami din kahapon may mga report sa amin sa aming social media page, no, na yung bata niya ay 40, yung upuan niya
meron ka ng PRT ng Cheryl.
May mga ganun po tayo.
Sir Benjo, dagdag na rin, no, sa kakulangan, nabanggit nga doon sa report, 105,000 classrooms ang kulang at iniisip nila baka pwedeng gawing PPP or Public-Private Partnership. Pero sa bilang ninyo, talaga bang nasa 105,000 classrooms lang ang kulang or more din?
If I got it right, ang sabi po yata ng DepEd, 165,000, ano po. Yung 105, ito yung mukhang plano nila ipasok doon sa PPP, no, para mas mapadali. Of course, we cannot really contest, no, the data coming from DepEd. Sa tingin namin mataas yan at sa tingin namin, no, medyo sabihin na po natin na honest po yung DepEd ho dyan, ano. Kasi nung mga nakaraan hindi umaabot no ng 100,000, no, yung sinasabing shortage natin sa classroom, no. Pero ngayon umabot po ng more than 100,000, no. Yung issue naman po ng PPP, parang hindi kami kampante po diyan, no, sapagkat obligasyon po ng gobyerno ito. No, obligasyon po ng gobyerno yung public education system at dapat, no, ang magpopondo, ang maglalaan ng budget para sa construction ng ating mga classroom ay yung gobyerno po mismo, no. Kung meron mang role ang private dito, no, partnership siguro to build, no, but para gastusan ito po, no, ng ating mga pribadong sektor, parang hindi yata po na yun tama, no. Parang pinalaki natin yung konsepto ng brigada eskwela, no, na binigay po natin yung maintenance, no, doon sa komunidad, doon sa mga magulang, no. While yung maintenance po ay trabaho din, no, at obligasyon po ng ating gobyerno. That's our challenge, no. One of our main advocacy, no, is for the DepEd Secretary and the President himself, no, to push, no, for adequate funding, no, for this shortages po, no, para ma-close po natin yung gaps natin, kasi powerful naman ang ating pangulo, well, of course we do recognize the separation of powers, pero may influence, pwede nating sabihin ganun, yung ating pangulo doon sa Kongreso. At ayaw sana nating maulit pa yung nangyari po nitong 2025 GAA, kung saan ay napakalaki ng budget ng, let's say, ng DPWH, mas malaki ng DHAMAC kaysa sa DepEd, at kahit pagsamasamahin pa ang DepEd, CHED, TESDA at SUCs, mas malaki pa rin ang DPWH, which is a violation of the constitutional mandate po, kaya yun ang challenge namin sa ating Pangulo at sa ating DepEd Secretary na maging mas masigasig doon sa pag-influence, pag-kumbinsin o pag-lobby na lang doon sa ating mga mambabatas, dahil alam naman natin yung Congress has the power the purse, kaya naman po sila dapat ang kinakausap diyan, but alam din natin na may say pa rin naman po ang executive diyan, dahil yung NEP, yung National Expenditure Program, ay nagsisimula po sa ehekutibo.
Pero follow up lang, Sir Benjo, since kulang tayo ng material, kulang ng guro at kulang ng classroom, ano po yung dapat unahin dun sa tatlo? Or dapat masabay-sabay? Baka naman di natin ma-afford.
Tama po, ang hirap naman po na mamili po tayo dyan sa tatlo, dahil lahat yan essential. Yung issue po kung may capacity ba o wala, ang gobyerno ng Pilipinas, hindi po kami naniniwala na wala. In fact, mayroon pong capacity. Nakita naman po natin, again, babalikan ko po yung GAA 2025, malaking budget yung inilaan sa mga pwede kong sabihin, pwede naming sabihin na non-essential, yung mga ayuda, yung mga infra, ay naglaan po ng napakalaking budget po diyan, Ang challenge po namin sa ating gobyerno ay mag-invest tayo, dito sa mga bagay, na magiging mas malaki, yung balik sa atin, and that is of course public education po.
But at the same time, Sir Benjo, meron yung no learner left behind policy, di ba? Sa mga public school kung saan bawal sila tumanggi ng mga enrollees, which is good in essence, in principle, di ba? Pero does that also contribute dun na nga sa over-congestion sa mga paaralan? And do you think that should be revised?
Kami po hindi naniniwala na pwede nating tanggihan yung ating mga kababayan, yung mga mamamayan po natin, kabataan na gustong mag-aral, Kasi dapat ang nag-a-adjust po yung Estado, hindi po yung mga mamamayan, po. Dahil powerful yung Estado, nasa kanyang disposal ang malaking budget, di ba? Yung kababayan po natin, na walang kapasidad, na walang financial capacity at hindi nakapag-aral, saan po yan mapupunta, So dapat nga po pinaprioritize po natin itong mga kababayan po natin na gustong mag-aral pero walang kapasidad, So hindi po kami naniniwala na ito ay nakadaragdag doon sa congestion at kailangang baguhin po yung polisiya. Ang dapat po pagtuunan ng pansin ay maging palakihin yung capacity po ng ating public education system, Ginawa na din po nila as a temporary measure, madam, nung mga nakaraan, yung tinatawag po natin na IELTS students, di ba? At yung GASPE, di ba? Yung tulungan na nilalagay natin sa private school yung ilang mga bata at binabayaran po ng gobyerno. Yan po nga ating voucher system, Pwede rin naman yun, pansamantala, di ba? Pero hindi dapat na yun ang nagiging policy po natin.
And Sir Benjo, sa usapin naman ng K-12 program, this year na nga i-implement yung revised program, what is your position in that? And ano ba talaga po yung problema sa K-12? Is it the structure or yung implementasyon po?
Sa tingin po namin, implementation, yung structure po, kumbaga, nalampasan natin Kung matatandaan po ninyo, more than a decade ago, di ba, nag-raise po kami ng concern dyan, nung pinaplano pa lamang to, nung dating administration, ni Brother Armin at ni President Aquino, di ba, nag-raise po kami dyan ng concerns, And of course, nung opposition din, sapagkat sa tingin namin ay kahit paabuti natin ng 13, 14, 15 or even 20, ang years in school po, kung hindi naman, again, bumabalik po kami doon sa basics, kung hindi naman po natutugunan yung mga basic na pangangailangan sa ating education system ay talagang mabibigo, at hindi rin naman nila tinignan, hindi rin naman nila nilagay doon sa priority, yung kalagayan din po ng ating mga guro, yung socio-economic conditions po ng ating mga guro. Yun yung laging sinasakripisyo In fact, ma'am, ang laging sinasakripisyo ay mga guro. Lahat po nakakulangan po niyan the shortages in armchair, the shortages in learning materials, no? The shortages in teachers and in classrooms po, no? Lahat po ng yan, ang magpupuno ng lahat ng pagkukulang ng gobyerno po niyan, ay kami po sa ibaba, kami po no, na mga nagtuturo, no? At minsan no, niro-romanticize yung pagiging resilient, no? Pagiging creative at pagiging resourceful ng mga teacher, no? Sana hindi na, no? Sana hindi na kasi kaya naman namin magtiyaga, no? Hangga't kakayanin pa. Pero paano po kapag hindi na kaya? Mind you, marami na pong teacher ang sumusuko, no?
Okay. Benjo, one last question. Itong 20,000 na sabi mo kulang pa nga, but mabilis lang ba itong punuin? Marami bang mag-a-apply ng mga teachers? Because I understand sa Vietnam, for instance, let's just cite an example, ang daming mga Pinoy teachers, and they say that Pinoy teachers are really the secret to, the economic success of Vietnam.
Yung sinabi nyo na yan, ma'am, no, napakasakit yan marinig, no. Of course, we congratulate Vietnam, its government, its people, no, dahil nasa kanila yung ating mga magagaling na teacher na dapat sana ay nasa atin, ano. Pero hindi natin masisisi, no, talagang looking for greener pasture po ang ating mga teacher, kaya po nag-abroad, no. Going back doon po sa tanong po ninyo kung sapat ba, kung ito ba ay lahat ba ma-hire, no, ang tansya ko po, lahat po ng ito ay ubos na ito, no, yung 20,000, sapagkat lahat po no ng ating mga divisions, ang dami po nakapila ng mga teacher applicants. Hindi po tayo mauubusan ng mga teacher applicants, no. Ngayon lang meron tayong bagong 25,000 no na licensed professional teachers po, no. So kasama na naman sila no doon sa magiging ano po natin, no, magiging candidates natin. Well, it's good to know
na marami pa rin gustong maging guro sa kabila ng sinasabi mong hamon sa kanila. Maraming salamat sa iyong panahon, Benjo Basas, Chairman of the Teachers Dignity Coalition.
8 police chiefs in Metro Manila were relieved from their posts after failing to comply with the 5-minute response time policy for emergency calls. Those removed from their posts include the police chiefs of Navotas, Caloocan, Valenzuela, Mandaluyong, Marikina, San Juan, Parañaque, and Makati. PNP Chief General Nicolas Torres III earlier promised the public that officers would respond to 911 calls in Metro Manila within 5 minutes. Torre also said he intends to cut the 5-minute response time down to 3 minutes after 3 months.
That is our commitment to the President and to the Filipino people. So if they can cope up with it, if they can step up to that standard, we will look for commanders who will do so. I want them to actually command, not only figuratively, but literally, they can issue the command over the radio, over in a communication na kung gusto nila. There will be more because I was there in Central Visayas yesterday, in Iloilo, and may mga nakosyon ako mga provincial director doon. We will declare those positions open so that mabigyan naman ng pagkakataon ang ibang mga interesado at qualified at sa tingin natin ay kayang gawin yung ating pamantayan.
We're just going to take a quick break, but coming up, we take a look at the Israel-Iran conflict, which is now on its 4th day. We'll be speaking with Philippine Ambassador to Israel, Eileen Mendiola, when we return. Stay tuned.
You're watching the big story here on One News. Missiles rained down on Israel Sunday night, with Haifa and Tel Aviv among the hardest hit. Iran claims it's retaliation for earlier Israeli strikes in western Iran. Here's mobile journalist Isa Abelio with the story.
Iran launched a missile and drone attack on Israel Sunday night, hitting the port city of Haifa and Tel Aviv, killing at least 8 people and 100 wounded across the country. Haifa is home to one of Israel's biggest power plants. Emergency services rushed to the strike site on northern Israeli city of Haifa, as damaged buildings, cars, and debris could be seen. The attack came hours after Israel carried out airstrikes in western Iran, targeting missile sites under Operation Rising Lion. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu claims Iran is taking steps to build a nuclear weapon. Iran then fired back under what it called Operation True Promise 3. Israel's National Emergency Services reports at least 24 dead in Israel, while Iran's health ministry reports 224 people killed in the country, with hundreds more injured. Thousands continue to flee Tehran as tensions escalate. U.S. President Donald Trump weighed in, saying he hopes Israel and Iran can broker a deal. According to Trump, the U.S. will continue to support the defense of Israel.
Well, I hope there's going to be a deal. I think it's time for a deal, and we'll see what happens. But sometimes they have to fight it out, but we're going to see what happens. I think there's a good chance there'll be a deal.
Meantime, the Department of Migrant Workers report that 4 OFWs in Israel have been hospitalized after sustaining wounds from the airstrikes of Iran. 2 have been discharged, while 2 remain confined. There have been no OFW casualties reported thus far. The DMW are on heightened alert while the Philippine Embassy in Tel Aviv remains closed. According to Philippine Ambassador to Israel Eileen Mendiola, at least 12 Filipinos have been injured and over 20 evacuated. DMW Secretary Hans Kakdak says 18 OFWs stranded in Dubai were repatriated by the department. There are also over 30,000 Filipinos in Israel, and they are ready to assist those who wish to return home.
We always stand ready for any eventuality, including mass repatriation. We will work closely with the DFA and the Israeli authorities on this matter. And well, considering na sarado yung airport doon, we will time the departure from Israel, the repatriation of our kababayans.
Mobile journalist Isa Abelio, we are One News.
And now let's get updates from Ambassador Eileen Mendoza from the Philippine Embassy to Israel. Good evening to you and welcome to the Big Story, Madam Ambassador. Tell us the situation in Israel as of this moment.
Good evening, Seth, Shawn, Pauline, ladies. Tonight, it's still in the afternoon here in Israel. Very early this morning, we actually had a missile attack where one of the buildings it's a hotel in the central part of Tel Aviv was hit. And there were 18 Filipinos who were actually affected by the explosion of the hotel. Luckily, all 18 are okay. It was a good thing that one of our kababayans who actually had the presence of mind to close the door of the bomb shelter, had it not been for her, I don't know the situation of the 18 had it not been for her presence of mind in closing the door. So very early, just this afternoon, we actually visited these 18 people, and they're all unscathed, no injuries whatsoever. It's just that they're suffering from trauma because of the huge impact of the missile attack on their own particular building.
Are they workers, Ambassador, workers in the hotel, or are they like maybe pilgrims or
this particular case, they're all hotel workers. Okay. So they were just staying in the hotel where they actually work. So when we visited them, their employer actually assigned them to another hotel. So they're resting. And we had a very candid conversation with them, and they told us about how it happened and how they felt. It was just heart-rending when you hear the person who actually closed the door, when she explained that it's like the shockwave hitting her body. It's like a ball. She said she felt like a ball being tossed up and then down. That was how she felt, and she was the one who literally closed the door. And I told her, had it not been for you, you actually saved the lives, no? But it shows actually in that conversation, and even in the greater, it was a group discussion. It was a group session where embassy personnel, including DMW, OWA, and the DFA team, met with these 18 people, and it was actually a conversation where we felt the need for trauma consultations, social services are very much needed for affected Filipinos. This is something new, totally new. And some of these hotel workers have been present since October 7. And many of them are saying this is really different.
I hope they won't be put to work immediately by their employer.
That was exactly the point. And I had that conversation with the hotel manager. Because their original plan was to get them to work tomorrow. And I said, that's impossible. And I said, for example, if it was you in the same case, would you go back to work tomorrow? And that was my question. So she relented and she gave a few more days reprieve for our kababayans.
You do have a heavy responsibility there, Ambassador, given the situation. How about the others who were reported to have been injured? Can you give us an update on their condition?
Thank you, Ces. This morning, I actually visited one critical case. It's in Rehovot, and the hotel that I visited is one of the best hospitals for trauma care. And this particular kababayan, she's also an OFW. She's over 40 years old. She has her sister, and her sister was actually present when we visited her. And she's strapped in the most high-tech equipment that you can imagine, because her lungs actually gave out. No, the right lung is not functioning, so she's actually her life is being sustained by a certain machine that pumps in air into her bloodstream. No, so what was very important is that her situation is very critical. She's being monitored very carefully because she cannot have surgery until such time that they are able to fully stabilize her. And it's the doctors are saying that if her response to the treatment that they're providing will continue, there's a big likelihood that they will be able to do a surgery on her tomorrow. So we were assured by the hospital management, the hospital administration, that they're fully on top of this patient. And when her sister was asking about the cost of the surgery and her hospitalization, the doctor who was in charge of the case, a top doctor, she said, "Don't worry about this one." So it's such a big relief on the part of her sister, no, that they don't need to worry about the cost of the hospitalization.
Well, Ambassador, Israel is home to about 30,000 Filipinos. How many of our kababayans have already requested to be repatriated? And with how alarming and dangerous the missile attacks have been getting, is it still voluntary? Is evacuation still voluntary at this point, or dapat mandatory na po?
If you recall, since the October 7 attack happened, we have been implementing a voluntary repatriation program. And from October 7 until July 12, we repatriated 1,333 Filipinos. Now, since June 13 until now, our current figure says that we've received 24 phone calls about possibility of repatriation, 24 phone calls. And out of these 24 phone calls, only 15 have truly decided to go back home. On the mass repatriation that you're saying is that I'm in touch with the rest of the migrant sending ambassadors here in Tel Aviv, and we've been discussing the possibility, or if they're planning of possible mass evacuation of their own people, and across the board, and they have more nationals here in Israel than Philippines. They said that at this point they're not planning to do any evacuation.
But there is a plan in place. I believe when this started brewing last week, the president already ordered that everything has to be laid out just in case you have to trigger na go na.
Yes, we are always ready to do a mass evacuation, but the main consideration at this point is that the airport of Israel is it's closed. The airspace is totally closed because we don't know at which time Iran may decide to send their missiles. So that's one main considerations that we have to consider. Even the coastline, because we were even thinking about chartering ships, for example. So the ports are main targets. You mentioned a while ago in the report that Haifa, being a port, was one of the targets actually last night. We cannot possibly consider using the established ports of Israel. So the only possibility are land crossings, which is via Jordan and via Egypt. Egypt, if you consider Tel Aviv, for example, it's quite far if we have to motor our people there. So we have to consider also the difficult situation, and we have to find that window of opportunity to rush them to the Jordanian border.
Ambassador, About your office, the Philippine Embassy there in Tel Aviv, are the doors open for any Filipinos who might need help in case their homes are no longer around? Can they go to you and to your office and seek shelter there, perhaps?
Actually, the embassy is functioning 24/7 now. We are here. We are actually staying at the embassy full time in order to provide services to the kababayans. We are not providing the regular consular services because we want to focus all of our efforts in assisting the community. Now, in terms of shelter, the BMW has a temporary shelter here in Tel Aviv, and it has a capacity of 30. So this is a possibility. We do get phone calls from our kababayans that need to stay. For example, they happen to be in the place and then there's the alarm. So they can shelter in the temporary shelter that the DMW operates. But here in Israel, I have to inform you that all buildings must have bomb shelters. For those very, very old buildings that actually do not have the bomb shelters, you can find them nearby. Either in underground parkings or even in parks where there are entranceways that take them to the basement, and this serve as bomb shelters. So, but what is crucial actually to ensure that people are not will not become casualties is that they have to abide by the home front command. This is an application of the Israeli government that sends out notices on their phones. Right now, the notice is like 15 minutes to 20 minutes before an attack happens. A message is sent and it tells you go to a nearby shelter. So it's a clear instruction. It goes off whenever they detect that a projectile is being launched. It's informed that they have to go to a nearby shelter. And then the next information will tell you that you have to enter the shelter. So when you are informed that you have to enter a shelter, that's usually about a minute and a half. So once you're inside the shelter, you have to remain in the shelter until, again, the app tells you, the home front command tells you, now it's safe to go out. So all of these processes is very crucial. It's the only way to save a life. If you follow this protocol, life will be safe.
Ambassador, with Israel now under a nationwide state of emergency, are there still enough supplies, food, water, even communication lines? Until when will these resources last?
Since we went out today, so I can see, of course, internet, the telephone system, they're working perfectly. That's not a problem. No breakdown in the services in terms of internet and connectivity, basically. Now, I see restaurants being open, actually. And of course, we have something like 7-Eleven here in Israel. So you can buy your daily necessities. And the window of opportunity to do this is when the home front command says, you can go out. It's like life again, it's business as usual. It's time to take a breath of fresh air, basically.
And all Filipinos who are there, the 30,000, know this protocol and are abiding by it. This is your advice to them?
Yes. Actually, they know this, but I keep on reinforcing it. The embassy keeps on reinforcing it. We had a meeting with the community leaders on June 13. Actually, we had over 130 plus community leaders, and it was something that we were drilling down on them. But we did not stop with that. We post it on our Facebook. And then each time we get news that there will be a projectile being launched in Israel, we send the information immediately to our different chat groups so that we reinforce the messaging. It's not just relying on the home front command, but we send messages through WhatsApp.
Okay, and just going back to the first question we talked about earlier, you told us about the 18 hotel workers who were affected today, and of course that critical patient. How many others have been affected? Are we getting it right? There's about 3 or 4 more injured Filipinos?
If you go by, I would term it loosely medical case. Okay. We have 9 medical cases.
Okay.
So of the 9, 2 is a mother and child. She was born prematurely. So they're out, they're fine. So you take them out. So we're left with 7. These 7 incurred various stages of injuries, some very minor that they're easily discharged. 3 actually are that really needed medical care, no, bandaging, those things. So, but 2 are the ones that we are closely monitoring. One is the one that I just mentioned to you, that on life-saving support equipment. The other one is she seems okay. She can speak already, no. It's just that post her recovery, her quality of life might change. She might be, we don't know which physical mobility, if she will be fully mobile following this, because she has to undergo, we don't know yet, maybe therapy. We're not sure. No, I'm sorry, I'm not sure. But her hand was one of her hand was fractured. No, her arm was fractured. So don't know how mobile she will be after this.
And Ambassador, for the families and relatives of those who are there in Israel, yung mga nandito po sa Manila, no, o sa Pilipinas, how can they contact the Philippine Embassy in Israel to seek an update on how their families are doing?
Okay, as I mentioned, the internet connection here, the telephone system, is all working perfectly. So our kababayans in the Philippines can contact their relative directly. However, I'd like to say here online our hotline numbers, if you will allow me.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Thank you. So our 24/7 hotline emergency number is +972 54 466 1188, and our assistance to nationals number is +972 50 911 4017. Then we also have our Facebook Messenger, PH in Israel. Our Messenger, our Facebook, we're all responding to this. Like I said, our people are here. We're working 24/7. So we have a mechanism where we centralize all the queries, so we can filter out the different questions and the different information, so we can fact check them also. And then we can also, with the information that we're getting, we're sending out response teams to go to certain areas to validate and to help kababayans.
Okay. And last question for me, Ambassador. I was wondering, business as usual ba dyan sa Tel Aviv? As far as you know, like some of the OFWs, do they still have to report to work? Even like those of other nationalities. What's the deal in times like this? Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Majority of our kababayans here are caregivers, so they mostly live with their employers. So I should say it's business as usual for them because they have to work. But those that are working, for example, in hotels, they also have to work because for some reason there's also a deluge of hotel guests, mainly because some of them are affected, no? So they have to seek shelter also. So that's why our hotel workers were being asked to work na, because they don't have the staff. But work is, there's no work, there's no school, public gatherings are not allowed. People are just staying put and just wandering very near where they live, just to take a breather or so. In that case, in that way, you cannot really say it's business as usual. It's different. Now it's different from July 12.
Right.
Definitely.
Well, Ambassador, we thank you so much for your time. You and our kababayans there do keep safe. That was
Thank you very much.
Ambassador Eileen Mendiola of the Philippine Embassy to Israel.
We're pausing for another quick break, but right after that, President Marcos issues yet another stern warning to government officials who fail to fulfill their mandates. More on that one-on-one interview with Cheryl Cosim when the big story returns. Stay with us.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us here on The Big Story. In an exclusive interview, President Bongbong Marcos bared his rationale for the so-called great revamp of his cabinet officials. He also insisted he has been very strict with the people he works with and does not condone even friends when caught underperforming. Cheryl Cosim has that story.
When we sat down with President Bongbong Marcos in a podcast interview, one side of him surfaced. a strict chief executive in control of his administration. Someone who does not do double takes with those who are not able to perform. This, the president said, is the reason behind the recent review of government officials.
Una pong tinawag itong bold reset. Ano po? Pero marami yung nabitin. Now you've clarified that and you said na continuing performance review. Ano po ang objective nito, Mr. President?
Ayoko talaga yung business as usual. Kasi ang dami natin problema. Naging problema yan kasi business as usual tayo. Ngayon, mula ngayon, talagang we will be very, very, very conscientious of hitting our targets on time.
And to hit these targets, Marcos maintained he would not hesitate to remove officials from his administration, even his friends, if they fail to deliver.
In the military, kapag sinasabi, ito yung gagawin mo, pag hindi mo, ano nangyari? Hindi ko nagawa kasi ganyan, out. You're relieved. Next. And that's what we should do. We have to be very, very strict. Look, kahit kaibigan kita, mahal kita at lahat, pero hindi mo nagagawa yung trabaho eh. Hindi naman ito tungkol sa pagkakaibigan ng pagmamahal natin sa isa't isa kung hindi para sa serbisyo para sa tao.
Speaking of palitan, hindi naririnig, hindi na ilalabas, pero siguro sa mas mababang mga posisyon, marami na po ba kayong napalitan doon sa loob ng 3 taon?
Marami na. Marami na. Hindi na lang namin ina-announce kasi just get ako trabaho to just if you're not helping, get out of the way. Okay? Kung di mo kami tutulungan, basta malis ka na lang dito. Gawin mo yung gusto mong gawin, pero pabayaan mo kami magtrabaho. Whatever it is, basta just get out of the way so that I can do my job.
President Marcos also insisted he does not just read accomplishment reports. He wants to be sure. That's why he personally visits government projects. Recall that he recently rode the MRT, went to markets and to Kadiwa venues, and personally visited Siquijor province, which is in a state of calamity due to massive brownouts.
It's very different to receive, makatanggap ka ng report. Nasasabihin, natapos namin yung project, ganito yung ginastos namin, may picture na maganda. Pero pag pinuntahan mo, iba. Iba talaga. Totoo pala yung report, maganda yung report. Alam mo na, yung taong yun, hindi nagsisinungaling sa'yo. The other side is, binuhala ako nitong mga lokon to. Alam mo na, eto mga to, hindi reliable yan. Maghanap tayo ng iba. So it's still important to go and see things for yourself.
Halfway before the end of his term, Marcos Jr. has only one thing he wants to achieve: to be remembered for bringing meaningful improvements to the lives of Filipinos.
The one thing you absolutely want to be remembered for?
We made a change for the better. This has been my guide in all the positions I've taken. The worst thing that can happen is umupo ka doon sa posisyon mo, na nagsilbi ka, umalis ka, walang pinagbago. So I absolutely insist that in 2028, when I leave this office, there are significant and tangible changes for the better in the life of each Filipino.
I'm Cheryl Cosim. We are One News.
Moving on now to the second highest official of the country. Vice President Sara Duterte addressed her looming impeachment trial and took a personal swipe at Palace Press Officer Undersecretary Claire Castro. The VP was in Davao City for the oath-taking of newly elected local officials. In an exclusive interview with News 5, she rejected calls for Senator Robin Padilla and Senator Amy Marcos to inhibit as senator judges in her impeachment trial. She says they should all be given the benefit of the doubt.
Kung ipapa-inhibit natin ang mga bias na senators, madami tayong ipapa-inhibit din. Tulad ni Senator Risa Ontiveros na sa isang public speech niya ay sinabi, kailangan sirain ang mga Duterte. Si Senator Chis Escudero, si Senator Pimentel na nagsabi, ano ba sinabi sa akin? Unhinged. Parang yun ba ang term na ginamit sa akin? Basta ang sinabi ay lukaret.
The Vice President says she is still waiting on her legal team's advice on whether or not she should attend the trial personally. but her defense team stands at the ready. Duterte also says she is ready to face plunder charges, but is concerned because her staff is allegedly being harassed. On her father's detention in the ICC, the vice president says she is unsure where he will be transferred, but hopes that the court will make a fair decision. She then hit back at USEC Claire Castro after the palace officials' remark about politicians willing to be used. Duterte claims Castro is related to ACT Teachers Party List representative Franz Castro, which Representative Castro denies.
Claire Castro, pinsan ni Franz Castro, at pag Castro family, yung dalawa lang naman yan sila sa pamilya na yan, Claire Castro at Franz Castro, wala na talagang maganda at tama na lalabas dyan galing sa bibig nila. Sabi ko nga, di ba, ano sabi ko? Garbage in, garbage out. Pagdating dyan sa dalawang Castro na yan.
So, nagiging source of fake news na po or disinformation ang ating Vice Presidente at hindi ito maganda para sa kanya bilang pangalawang nakakataas na leader ng bansa. Sana wag manatili ang pagiging source niya ng fake news bilang Vice Presidente.
Meantime, are you a victim or having problems with online lending apps? Well, the Presidential Anti-Organized Crime Commissioner PAOK came up with a one-stop shop to help you. PAOK has tied up with the Philippine National Police and the Securities and Exchange Commission to help out those who were victimized by lending apps. That's as PAOK recorded more than 6,000 victims complaining and asking for help due to harassment by these online lenders. Many were enticed to loan because of the payment terms, but what they failed to notice is the fine print about tons of interest. Some even referred delinquent payers to other partner lending apps that just load them up with more mountains of debt. At this point, they were harassed, posted on social media, and even given death threats. PAOK is also investigating whether these lending apps have connections to former POGOs.
And it has been around 3 weeks since the NCAP or no contact apprehension policy took effect. So, how do you know if you have any violations? Well, our big picture tonight is the May Huli Ka website launched by the MMDA, where you can do just that. Check for your violations. Head on over to www.mayhulika.mma.gov.ph. Input your plate number or conduction sticker as well as your MV file number. The MV file number is a 15-digit number assigned to each vehicle during registration. This is found at the top left of your ORCR. The website also shares the step-by-step process on how to pay for your violations, if any. If this is in person, through their head office at the ground floor of Robinson's Galleria. You can also make digital payments through Maya, Bayad app, iCash, or Land Bank Biz portal. And if you disagree with the citation that was issued to you, you may contest within 10 working days from the receipt of notice.
How do you contest?
I'm trying to check.
Okay, go.
I'm trying to check, but then I don't know my MV file number.
Yeah.
Hassle yun ah.
So I guess you have to save it to your notes, no? Para we can always check.
At saka that MV file number so long.
I know.
15
digits.
Kailangan mo siya i-save sa contact on your phone.
Oo nga. Better yet, don't do any violation.
Yeah, actually, that's the best advice.
Yeah. Okay, and so that's it for the Big Story this Monday evening. Thank you so much for watching.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.
We'll be back tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. We'll see you then. Meantime, have a good night, everyone.